The crack of the officer's hand against Lily's face echoed through the crowded street, silencing the hum of evening chatter. A gasp rippled through the onlookers, their phones already raised, capturing the unthinkable. Lily, just 17, sat rigid in her wheelchair, her brown eyes wide with shock, a red mark blooming on her cheek. James Harper's world narrowed to that single moment. His daughter is fierce. Brilliant daughter had been struck in public, in broad daylight, by a man sworn to protect. A retired Navy SEAL. James had faced death in deserts and jungles, but nothing had prepared him for the rage that surged now, hot and primal, as he stepped between Lily and the officer. Officer Michael Daniels, mid-30s, stood frozen, his hand still raised, as if he couldn't believe his own actions. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of outrage and disbelief, but James didn't hear them. His focus locked on Daniels, whose badge gleamed under the streetlights, a mockery of authority. "You don't touch her," James said, his voice low, steady, but carrying the weight of a man who'd survived wars. Lily's hands trembled on the armrests of her chair, but her voice cut through the tension. "I'm fine, Dad." It was a lie, and they both knew it. Her cerebral palsy made every movement a battle, but her spirit was unbreakable until now, when the world had shown its cruelty in a new, ugly way. It had started innocently enough. Lily and her girlfriend, Sarah, had been at the town's annual fair, laughing over cotton candy and stolen glances. Sarah, 18, with curly red hair and a smile that lit up the gloomiest days, had been Lily's anchor since they'd met at a support group 2 years ago. They were young, in love, and fearless, or so they thought. But their public affectation, a gentle kiss by the Ferris wheel, had drawn sneers from a few passers-by, including Officer Daniels, who'd been patrolling the fair. Daniels had approached, his tone sharp, accusing them of causing a scene. Lily, never one to back down, had challenged him. "We're just existing," she'd said, her voice steady despite the stares. "Is that a crime now?" Her defiance had sparked something in Daniels, something dark. His words grew harsher, and when Lily refused to calm down, his hand had flown, a reflex born of frustration and prejudice. Now, as the crowd filmed, James forced himself to stay calm. He'd learned control in the SEL show to channel rage into precision. But this was different. This was his daughter, his world. "Step back," he told Daniels, his voice a warning. The officer hesitated, then complied, his face paling as he registered the intensity in James's eyes. Sarah rushed to Lily's side, her hands gentle on Lily's shoulders. "I'm here," she whispered, her voice shaking. The crowd parted slightly, some whispering about the disabled girl and the cop who lost it. James hated those words, disabled, as if Lily were less than whole. She was stronger than anyone he'd ever known, her mind sharper than his own, her heart bigger than the world that kept trying to break it. The fairground, once alive with laughter and music, felt like a battlefield now. James knelt beside Lily, his calloused hand resting on hers. "You okay, kiddo?" he asked, though he knew the answer. She nodded, but her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Sarah's hand tightened on Lily's, a silent promise to stay. Daniel stammered. Two didn't mean to. She was being disruptive. The excuse sounded hollow, even to him. A woman in the crowd, holding her phone, shouted, "You hit a kid in a wheelchair. What's wrong with you?" Others joined in, their voices a growing tide of anger. James stood, his 6'2" frame imposing, his eyes never leaving Daniel's. "You don't get to decide what's disruptive," he said. "Not when it's just two girls being themselves." He glanced at Sarah, who met his gaze with gratitude and fear. He'd known about their relationship for a year, had seen how it gave Lily strength. He'd be damned if anyone took that from her. The situation was spiraling. Phones kept recording, and James knew this moment would spread next. On news feeds, everywhere. He didn't care about viral fame. He cared about justice. He cared about Lily. And he cared about making sure Daniels understood the weight of what he'd done. As sirens wailed in the distance, backup Daniels had likely called. James made a decision. He wasn't just a father. He was a man who'd spent 20 years protecting people. He wouldn't let this go. Not for Lily. Not for Sarah. Not for every kid who'd ever been hurt for being themselves. "Dad," Lily whispered, her voice steady now. "Don't do anything stupid." Her words pulled him back, grounding him. She was right. This wasn't just about rage. It was about showing her that the world could be better, that he could make it better. He turned to Daniels. "You're going to answer for this," he said. Not a threat, but a promise. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, and Sarah's hand stayed firm on Lily's. In that moment, James knew this wasn't just their fight. It was bigger, about love, about dignity, about a world that needed to change. The police station was a cold, fluorescent-lit maze of gray walls and echoing voices. James sat across from Lily and Sarah in the waiting area, his hands clasped tightly to keep them from shaking. The incident at the fair had exploded online, with videos racking up thousands of views on X within hours. Hashtags like "Justice for Lily" and "Police Brutality" trended. But James didn't care about the noise. He cared about the quiet strength in Lily's eyes as she sat, chin high, refusing to let the world break her. Sarah hadn't left Lily's side, her hand resting on Lily's arm, a tether against the chaos. The girls were whispering, their heads close, and James caught fragments of their conversation. Sarah reassuring Lily, Lily cracking a weak joke to lighten the mood. He marveled at their resilience, how they found light even now. But his own heart was heavy. He'd failed to protect her once. He wouldn't again. A detective, a woman in her 40s named Carter, approached them. Her face was neutral, but her eyes softened when they landed on Lily. "We've taken Officer Daniels' statement," she said. "He claims it was an accident, a reaction to provocation. We'd like to hear your side." Lily's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Provocation. I was existing. I was kissing my girlfriend. That's not a crime." Sarah squeezed her hand, her own eyes flashing with defiance. James felt a surge of pride, but also pain. His daughter shouldn't have to defend her right to love. Carter nodded, scribbling notes. "I understand. Can you walk me through what happened?" Her tone was professional, but there was a flicker of empathy, a crack in the bureaucratic armor. James leaned forward, recounting every detail: the kiss, the confrontation, the slap, the crowd. His voice stayed steady, but inside, he was reliving it, each word a fresh cut. As Lily spoke, her voice grew stronger. "He told us we were disgusting," she said. "He said we shouldn't be doing that in public. I told him he didn't get to police my life. That's when he hit me." Her words hung in the air, raw and unapologetic. Sarah's jaw tightened, and James saw the guilt in her eyes, as if she blamed herself for not stopping it. Carter's pen paused. "That's consistent with the videos we've seen," she said. "We're pulling more footage from the fair's security cameras. This isn't being swept under the rug." Her words were meant to reassure, but James didn't trust promises. He'd seen too many systems fail the people they were meant to protect. Outside, a small crowd had gathered: protesters, reporters, curious onlookers. James caught glimpses through the station's windows, signs reading, "Love is not a crime," and "Fire Daniels." The support was heartening, but it also felt like a spotlight. exposing Lily's pain to the world. He hated that her trauma was now a headline. When Carter stepped away, James knelt beside Lily. "You don't have to do this," he said. "We can go home. Figure this out quietly." But Lily shook her head. "No, Dad. If I stay quiet, he wins. They all win." Her voice was fierce, and James saw the fire that had carried her through years of physical therapy, surgeries, and a world that often looked away. Sarah spoke up, her voice soft but firm. "She's right, Mr. Harper. This isn't just about us. It's about every kid who's scared to hold hands in public." James looked at her, this brave girl who loved his daughter, and nodded. He'd fight for them both. The station's door swung open, and a man in a suit strode in. Chief of Police, Richard Hayes. His presence commanded attention, but his eyes were wary as they landed on James. "Mr. Harper," he said, extending a hand. "I understand you're a decorated veteran. I want to assure you we're handling this seriously." James didn't take the hand. "You'll forgive me if I don't take your word for it," he said. "Your officer assaulted my daughter. I want accountability, not assurances." Hayes's smile faltered, but he nodded. "We're suspending Daniel's pending investigation. We'll keep you updated." As Hayes walked away, James felt the weight of the fight ahead. This wasn't just about Daniels. It was about a system that let men like him feel untouchable. He thought of his SEAL training, the missions where he'd faced impossible odds. This was different, but the stakes were higher. This was for Lily, for Sarah, for every kid who deserved to love without fear. Lily reached for his hand. "Thanks for being here, Dad," she said, her voice soft but steady. He squeezed her hand, his heart swelling. "Always, kiddo. Always." The next morning, the Harper house was a fortress under siege. News vans lined the quiet suburban street, their cameras trained on the modest two-story home. James stood at the window, curtains half drawn, watching reporters jostle for position. Lily was upstairs, still asleep, her body exhausted from the emotional toll of the previous night. Sarah had stayed over, curled up on an air mattress in Lily's room, their hands touching even in sleep. James's phone buzzed relentlessly, texts from old SEAL buddies offering support, calls from local activists wanting to rally, and notifications from X, where the video of Daniel striking Lily had now surpassed 1 million views. The world was watching, but James felt trapped. He wanted to protect Lily, to shield her from the spotlight, but she'd made it clear she wanted to fight. Sarah appeared at the kitchen table, her red curls tied back, her face pale but determined. "She's still sleeping," she said, pouring coffee. "She cried for a while last night. Didn't want me to tell you." James's heart twisted. He'd heard the muffled sobs through the walls, had fought the urge to barge in and hold her. But Lily was growing up, and she needed Sarah's comfort as much as his. "Thanks for being there for her," he said, his voice rough. Sarah nodded, her eyes meeting his. "She's everything to me, Mr. Harper. I'd do anything for her." Her words were simple, but they carried a weight James understood. Love like that was rare, worth fighting for. The doorbell rang, and James tensed. It was Detective Carter, alone, her expression grim. "We need to talk," she said, stepping inside. She glanced at Sarah, then back at James. "The department's getting pressure to spin this. Daniel's union is claiming he was under stress and that Lily provoked him. They're digging into her social media, trying to paint her as a troublemaker." James's fists clenched. "She's a kid. A kid in a wheelchair. What kind of excuse is that?" Carter raised a hand, her voice calm but firm. I'm on your side, Mr. Harper. But you need to know what we're up against. The chief wants this to go away quietly. They're offering a settlement money. An apology. Daniels reassigned. Sarah's voice cut in, sharp. They think they can buy her silence. After what he did. Carter sighed. It's how the system works. But I've seen the footage. Read the witness statements. Daniels doesn't have a leg to stand on. If you push, you can make this bigger than just him. James thought of Lily's defiance, her refusal to back down. What's the next step? He asked. Carter outlined the process, a formal complaint, a public hearing, possibly a lawsuit. It won't be easy, she warned. The department will fight dirty. And the media's already turning this into a circus. As Carter spoke, Lily wheeled into the kitchen, her eyes puffy but sharp. I heard everything, she said. I'm not taking their money. I want him fired. I want people to know what he did. Her voice trembled, but her resolve was iron. James felt a surge of pride, but also fear. This fight would expose her to hate, to scrutiny, to a world that wasn't kind to girls like her. Sarah stood, moving to Lily's side. We'll do this together, she said, her voice steady. Whatever it takes. Lily smiled. A small, brave thing. And James knew he couldn't shield her from this knot when she was ready to lead. By afternoon, the story had grown legs. A local LGBTQ+ advocacy group reached out, offering legal support and a platform for Lily to speak. James was wary, didn't want his daughter turned into a symbol, but Lily was insistent. I'm not just doing this for me, she said. It's for every kid who's scared to be themselves. That evening, they met with the group's leader, Miah, a warm, no-nonsense woman in her 50s. She listened as Lily recounted the incident, her voice steady despite the pain. Miah nodded, her eyes kind but fierce. You're not alone, she said. We've got your back. But this fight will test you. Are you ready? Lily glanced at Sarah, then at James. I'm ready, she said. James felt the weight of her words, the strength behind them. He'd spent his life fighting for country, for freedom. Now, he'd fight for his daughter's right to love, to exist, to be seen. The town hall was packed, the air thick with tension and the hum of whispered conversations. Lily sat at the front, her wheelchair positioned beside a podium, her hands steady despite the eyes on her. Sarah was to her left, her presence a quiet anchor, while James stood behind, his arms crossed, scanning the room like a soldier assessing a battlefield. The public hearing was their chance to demand accountability, but it felt like walking into a lion's den. The chief, Hayes, sat with other officials, his face a mask of professionalism. Daniels was there too, in plain clothes, his eyes fixed on the floor. The videos had made it impossible for him to deny the slap, but his union had hired a sharp lawyer, a man named Grayson, who now stood, addressing the crowd. Officer Daniels acted under pressure, Grayson said, his voice smooth. He regrets his actions and is willing to apologize. This was an isolated incident, not a pattern. Lily's jaw tightened, and James saw the fire in her eyes. When it was her turn to speak, she wheeled forward, her voice clear and unwavering. I'm not here for an apology, she said. I'm here because a man who's supposed to protect people hit me for kissing my girlfriend. He didn't see me as a person. He saw me as a problem. The room erupted in murmurs, some supportive, others hostile. A man in the back shouted, "You shouldn't be flaunting that in public." Sarah flinched, but Lily didn't. Flaunting. She shot back. I was living. I was loving. If that's a crime, then arrest me. The crowd split, some clapped. Others jeered. James's hands twitched, ready to silence anyone who crossed a line. Miah, the advocate, stood next, her voice cutting through the noise. This isn't just about one officer. It's about a system that lets this happen. Lily and Sarah deserve to feel safe, to love without fear. We're demanding Daniel's termination and mandatory training for the department. Grayson countered, painting Daniels as a stressed officer who'd made a mistake. James wanted to shout, to demand how a mistake justified striking a disabled teenager. But he held back, knowing Lily needed to lead this. She did, her words sharp and honest, recounting the pain of that moment, the fear that lingered. Sarah spoke too, her voice softer but no less powerful, describing how Daniel's words had cut deeper than his hand. As the hearing ended, the crowd spilled outside, where protesters clashed, some holding signs supporting Lily, others decrying special treatment for troublemakers. James guided Lily and Sarah through the chaos, his body a shield. A reporter shoved a microphone in Lily's face. How do you feel about the backlash? She asked. Lily's response was instant. I feel sorry for people who think love is something to hide. That night, the Harpers' living room became a war room. Miah and her team mapped out next steps, a lawsuit, media appearances, a petition for Daniel's dismissal. James listened, his mind racing. He'd faced enemies before, but this was different, less predictable, more personal. He noticed Sarah's quiet intensity, how she stayed close to Lily, her hand never far from hers. He saw himself in her, the instinct to protect, to fight. Later, alone with Lily, he asked, Are you sure about this? It's going to get uglier. She nodded, her eyes fierce. I'm sure, Dad. I can't let them win. He pulled her into a hug, her head resting against his chest. You're braver than I ever was, he said, his voice thick. Sarah joined them, her smile soft but determined. We're doing this together, she said. James nodded, feeling the weight of their courage. This wasn't just a fight for justice. It was a fight for a world where love didn't come with a price. The weeks that followed were a storm. The lawsuit against Daniels and the department was filed, backed by Miah's organization and a pro bono lawyer, Ellen, whose sharp mind matched her compassion. The story had gone national, with news outlets debating everything from police reform to LGBTQ+ rights to disability discrimination. Lily's face was everywhere, in TV, on X, in newspapers. James hated it, the way her pain was dissected for clicks. But Lily embraced it. If it helps one kid feel seen, it's worth it, she told him. At school, Lily and Sarah faced whispers and stares. Some classmates rallied around them, wearing rainbow pins in solidarity. But others were cruel, leaving notes in Lily's locker with slurs or Bible verses. Sarah found one taped to her backpack, Go back to the shadows. She tore it up, her hands shaking, but didn't tell Lily. James noticed her silence, the way she carried the weight alone, and pulled her aside one evening. You don't have to protect her from everything, he said. Let me help. Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. I just want her to be okay. The department fought back, leaking stories about Daniel's exemplary record and framing Lily as a disruptive activist. A local talk show host called her a spoiled kid playing victim, and the comments on X grew vicious. James wanted to hunt down every troll, but Lily stopped him. They're scared of change, she said. Let them talk. I'm not hiding. Ellen, their lawyer, was relentless, digging up Daniel's history complaints of excessive force, hushed up by the department. She built a case not just against him, but against a culture that protected him. At a press conference, Lily spoke. Her voice broadcast live across the country. "I'm not just a girl in a wheelchair," she said. "I'm not just a lesbian. I'm a person, and I deserve respect. We all do." Sarah stood beside her, her hand on Lily's shoulder, and James felt a swell of pride so fierce it hurt. But the fight took its toll. Lily's nightmares returned. Memories of the slap mixing with older fierce-off hospitals, of a world that saw her as less. Sarah stayed over most nights, her presence a balm. One evening, James found them on the porch, Lily's head on Sarah's shoulder, their hands intertwined. "You two are stronger than you know," he said, his voice soft. Lily smiled. "We learned from you, Dad." A breakthrough came when a second video surfaced, recorded by a fair vendor. It showed Daniel's approach. His words clear: "You're a disgrace to this town." The footage reignited public outrage, and the department's defenses crumbled. Hayes called James, offering a meeting. "We're open to settling," he said. "Name your terms." James's response was immediate: "No deals." Daniels goes, "Or we keep fighting." The community was divided. A local church organized a Support Our Police rally, while Maria's group countered with a march for justice. James walked with Lily and Sarah, the crowd chanting their names. A young boy, maybe 10, ran up to Lily, handing her a rainbow flag. "You're my hero," he said, then disappeared into the crowd. Lily's eyes filled with tears, and James knew this was why she fought not just for herself, but for kids like him. As the lawsuit gained traction, Ellen warned them, "They'll come for you harder now. Be ready." James nodded, his SEAL instincts kicking in. He'd protect his family, no matter the cost. But looking at Lily and Sarah, he realized they were the ones leading the charge, their love a weapon stronger than any he'd ever wielded. The courtroom was a crucible, every word a spark that could ignite or extinguish their fight. Lily sat at the plaintiff's table, her wheelchair a quiet testament to her resilience. Sarah was beside her, her hand resting lightly on Lily's arm, a silent vow of support. James, in a suit that felt foreign after years of fatigues, watched from the front row, his heart a war drum. Today was the first day of the trial, and the world was watching. Ellen stood, her opening statement ablaze. "This case isn't just about a slap," she said, her voice steady. "It's about a system that failed Lily Harper, that failed every person who's been targeted for who they are." She recounted the incident, the videos, Daniel's history, painting a picture of a man unfit to wear a badge. The jury, 12 strangers, their faces unreadable, listened intently. Grayson, Daniel's lawyer, countered with a narrative of a stressed officer pushed to the edge by a disruptive teenager. He didn't mention Lily's disability or her relationship with Sarah, but the implications hung heavy. Two girls who didn't belong in his version of order. James's fists clenched, but Lily's calm gaze steadied him. She was ready. When Lily took the stand, the room fell silent. She spoke clearly, her voice carrying the weight of her truth. "I didn't ask for this," she said. "I was just living my life, loving my girlfriend, when Officer Daniels decided I was a problem. He hit me because he could, because he thought no one would care about a disabled queer kid." Her words cut deep, and James saw jurors shift, some leaning forward, others wiping their eyes. Sarah testified next, her voice soft but unwavering. "Lily's my everything," she said. "Seeing her hurt like that, it broke something in me. But it also made me realize we can't stay silent." Her honesty disarmed the room, and even Grayson's cross-examination couldn't shake her. Daniels took the stand, his regret rehearsed. "I lost control," he said. I'm sorry. But under Ellen's questioning, his story unraveled. She pressed him on his words, his history, his bias. You called them disgusting, she said, her voice like steel. You struck a teenager in a wheelchair. Why? Daniel stammered, his answers weak, and James saw the jury's doubt grow. Outside, the media circus intensified. Ex-posts swung between support and hate, with some calling Lily a hero and others a woke instigator. James shielded her from the worst, but she insisted on reading everything. I need to know what we're up against, she said. Her courage humbled him, but it also terrified him. The trial was exposing her to a world of vitriol, and he couldn't stop it. At home, the strain showed. Lily was quieter, her smiles rarer. Sarah stayed close, their bond a lifeline. One night, James found them in the backyard, stargazing, Lily's head on Sarah's lap. Do you think we'll win? Lily asked, her voice small. Sarah kissed her forehead. We're already winning, just by fighting. James watched from the doorway, his heart aching with love and fear. Ellen called with news, a witness, a fair worker, had come forward, corroborating the second video. His testimony could seal Daniel's fate. But Grayson was digging too, unearthing James's military record, hinting at instability from his SEAL days. James didn't care about himself, but the threat to Lily's case enraged him. As the trial wore on, the community fractured further. A brick was thrown through the Harper's window. A note attached, leave town. James's old instincts flared, but Lily stopped him. They want us scared, she said. We're not. Her defiance was a beacon, and James knew he'd follow her lead, no matter where this fight took them. The trial stretched into its second week, each day a battle of words and wills. The courtroom felt smaller, the air heavier, as testimonies piled up. The fair worker's account was damning, his memory of Daniel's slurs vivid and unshakable. Ellen used it to hammer the department's complicity, showing how they'd ignored prior complaints. The jury's faces were no longer unreadable. Some nodded, others whispered, their sympathy clear. But Grayson fought dirty. He called a character witness, a former colleague of James's, who hinted at his temper during SEAL missions. Mr. Harper's a loose cannon, the man said, avoiding James's gaze. Ellen objected, dismantling the testimony as irrelevant. But the damage was done. Whispers of James's past swirled on X, painting him as a threat. He didn't care about his reputation, but the attacks on Lily were relentless, trolls calling her a crippled activist manipulating the system. Lily held her ground, her voice steady in court. But at home, she crumbled. One night, James found her crying in her room, Sarah holding her. They hate me, Lily whispered. They hate who I am. James knelt beside her, his voice fierce. They don't know you. You're stronger than all of them. Sarah nodded, her eyes wet. We love you, Lily. That's what matters. The community's divide deepened. A local bar hosted a Support Daniels fundraiser, while Maria's group organized a vigil for Lily, candles flickering in the town square. James attended, his arm around Lily, Sarah on her other side. A young trans teen approached, their voice shy. You're why I came out, they told Lily. Thank you. Lily's smile was small but real, and James saw the impact she was having, even through her pain. Ellen warned them of a new tactic. The department was offering a substantial settlement, contingent on a gag order. They're scared, she said. They know the jury's leaning your way. Lily shook her head. No. I want this public. I want change. James backed her, though he feared the toll. Sarah, ever steady, added, "We're not gagging anyone. Not now. Not ever." The final day of testimony brought a surprise. Carter, the detective, took the stand. She'd resigned, unwilling to stay in a system that protected Daniels. Her words were a bombshell. "I saw the cover-ups. I saw how they shielded him. Lily's telling the truth." The courtroom buzzed, and James saw hope in Lily's eyes for the first time in days. Closing arguments were brutal. Ellen painted a picture of a world where love and disability weren't crimes, where justice meant accountability. Grayson leaned on Daniel's remorse, but his words felt hollow. As the jury deliberated, James took Lily and Sarah to a quiet diner, away from the cameras. They laughed over milkshakes, a moment of normalcy in the storm. "Whatever happens," Lily said, "we did this together." Sarah kissed her hand, and James felt a lump in his throat. Back at the courthouse, the jury returned. The foreperson stood, her voice steady. "We find the defendant, Michael Daniels, guilty of assault." The room erupted cheers, gasps, a few angry shouts. Lily's shoulders sagged with relief, and Sarah hugged her tightly. James felt the weight of months lift, but not entirely. This was a victory, but the war wasn't over. Outside, reporters swarmed. Lily spoke, her voice clear. "This isn't just for me. It's for everyone who's been hurt for being themselves." James watched, proud and awed. His daughter was changing the world, one brave step at a time. The verdict was a spark, igniting change but also backlash. Daniels was fired, his badge stripped, and the department faced a federal investigation into its practices. Lily's story became a rallying cry, with advocacy groups across the country citing her case in pushes for police reform and anti-discrimination laws. But the hate didn't stop. Ex-posts still spewed venom, and the Harper's mailbox filled with both supportive letters and threats. Lily and Sarah leaned on each other, their love a shield. They started a blog, sharing their story and others, a space for kids like them to feel seen. James watched them grow closer, their bond unbreakable. He'd once worried about Lily's future, about who'd care for her when he was gone. Now, he knew Sarah was her future, her home. The town slowly healed. The church that had backed Daniels issued an apology, hosting a community dialogue on inclusion. Maria's group worked with the department to implement training. And Carter, now an advocate, joined them. James found purpose in supporting Lily's activism, speaking at events, his sealed discipline now serving a new mission. One spring evening, 6 months later, the Harpers hosted a barbecue. Friends, advocates, and new allies filled their backyard, laughter mingling with music. Lily and Sarah danced, their movements clumsy but joyful, Lily's wheelchair spinning under Sarah's gentle push. James watched, his heart full. A young couple approached, thanking Lily for giving them courage to come out. She smiled, her eyes bright. "Just be you," she said. "That's enough." Later, under the stars, James sat with Lily and Sarah. "I'm proud of you," he said, his voice thick. "Both of you." Lily grinned. "We had a pretty good teacher." Sarah nodded, her hand in Lily's. "We're not done yet," she said. "There's more to change." James looked at them, his warrior daughter and her fierce partner, and knew they were right. The fight wasn't over, but they'd already won something bigger, a world where love could shine, unapologetic and free. He'd spent his life protecting others. Now, he'd protect their right to that world, no matter what came next.